ready to explore some ancient wisdom that's still surprisingly relevant today.
Always up for that.
We're diving into Aristotle's concept of the unmoved mover.
Oh, interesting.
Think it can help us find purpose and live more intentionally, even in our modern world?
You might be surprised how this abstract idea connects to our everyday choices.
Okay, so first things first. What exactly is the unmoved mover?
Well, it starts with Aristotle's belief that everything in motion had to be set in motion by something else. Like, imagine dominoes.
Oh yeah, each one knocks over the next one.
Right, but that chain reaction can't go back forever.
There has to be a first domino to start the whole thing.
Exactly. And that's kind of like the unmoved mover. It's the ultimate source of all motion in the universe.
So the unmoved mover is like that first domino, but on a cosmic scale.
Yeah, you could say that. It's the initiator, but it itself stays unmoved.
Okay, I'm following you.
Yeah.
But how does this cosmic idea apply to our lives? It's not like we're being pushed around by some force, right?
No, it's not about a literal force. It's more about purpose.
Purpose, okay.
Aristotle believed everything in nature, including us, has a purpose, like a goal it's striving towards. He called this teleology.
Teleology. So is the unmoved mover like the ultimate purpose of the universe?
You could think of it that way. But the really interesting part is how this connects to our own lives. Aristotle thought each of us has our own unmoved movers.
Wait, our own unmoved movers. Okay, now you have my attention. What do you mean by that?
It's about what drives you, what motivates you, what are you aiming for? Those deep-seated values, goals, aspirations, they're your personal unmoved movers, setting your life in motion.
So it's not some external force dictating our lives, but our own motivations that shape our paths.
That's the idea. Aristotle thought that by understanding those unmoved movers, we could live more fulfilling lives, make choices that align with what we really want.
I see. It's like having a compass to navigate all the choices we face in life. But how do we figure out what our unmoved movers actually are?
That's the tough part. It takes reflection. Asking yourself what truly motivates you, what you want your life to stand for, what brings you a sense of purpose.
So it's not something we're just born knowing, but something we have to uncover.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process. It might change as we grow, but the key is to be intentional about it.
That puts the power back in our hands. We're not just passive recipients of fate. We can shape our own lives by aligning our actions with our unmoved movers.
That's what's so great about Aristotle's ideas. Empowering and insightful, encourages us to think beyond the moment and consider the bigger picture.
I like that. But hold on. If everything has a purpose, what about when life throws us a curveball?
Yeah.
How do unexpected things fit into this?
Great question. Aristotle did acknowledge chance and spontaneity.
So not every little detail of our lives is predetermined.
No, not at all. We still have room for flexibility and adaptation.
I guess that makes sense. We can't control everything.
Think of it like a sculptor. They might have a vision for their art, but they have to work with the unique qualities of their material too.
Like if there's a flaw in the stone, they adjust their plans.
Exactly. They can incorporate that flaw, even make it a beautiful part of the final creation. It's recognizing that even with the unexpected, we still have power to choose how we respond.
Love that analogy. Those unexpected events, good and bad, become part of the tapestry of our lives. We may not control what happens, but we can control how we respond and what it means to us.
That's where the unmoved movers come in. They give us a framework for navigating the unexpected, for finding meaning even when things don't go as planned.
This has been super insightful. I'm starting to see how this ancient philosophy can actually be a tool for living a better life today.
That's what we're here for. It's about understanding our motivations, our unmoved movers, and using that to make choices that align with what we truly value.
So much to think about.
It is, isn't it? Lots to unpack. That's the thing about philosophy, always more to explore. Where were we? Oh, right, purpose, choices, those unexpected cracks in the stone.
Yeah, that sculpture analogy was spot on. Life definitely throws those our way.
It does, doesn't it? And how we respond, how we incorporate them, that's key. And you know what? That ties in perfectly with another big piece of Aristotle's thinking. Virtue.
Virtue, like just being a good person.
Well, it starts there, but Aristotle's view was a bit deeper. He saw it as not just being good, but excelling at being human.
Excelling at being human. Okay, now that's interesting. What does that actually look like?
So Aristotle believed every part of us, every aspect of our nature has a purpose, an ideal way of functioning, you could say. Virtue is about reaching that full potential.
Gotcha. So, like, how would that apply to courage, for example?
Great example. For Aristotle, courage wasn't just about being fearless. It was about finding the right amount of courage for each situation.
So, like, too much courage could be reckless, and too little is cowardly.
Exactly. He called this the golden mean, finding that balance point between extremes where the virtue shines.
The golden mean, I like that. Like a tightrope walker finding perfect balance to stay steady.
Perfect analogy. And this applies to all kinds of virtues. Think about generosity. A truly generous person doesn't give away everything, but gives thoughtfully, considering both their needs and the needs of others.
So it's not just about being good, but being thoughtful, deliberate, finding that balance.
You got it. And Aristotle believed this was essential for living a truly good and fulfilling life.
It all makes sense, but how do we do that? Finding this perfect balance in everything seems pretty tough.
It is tough. Aristotle knew that. He said becoming virtuous was like developing a skill, like playing an instrument. Takes practice.
So it's not something we're born with, we have to work at it.
Exactly. And he said a big part of that is paying attention to our habits. He believed that our actions shape our character over time. So good choices over and over make those choices easier. You develop virtuous habits.
It's like a positive feedback loop. The more we act in line with our values, the stronger those values become.
Precisely. And here's where it all connects back to the unmoved mover. Those deep values, those aspirations, they're your unmoved movers. By cultivating virtuous habits, you're aligning your actions with them, creating a life that's in harmony with your purpose.
Wow, okay, starting to see the bigger picture here. This isn't just some abstract cosmic idea. It's a way to understand ourselves, make better choices, live a more meaningful life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about moving through life with purpose, even when things get a little bumpy.
Totally. But before we go too far down this road, gotta ask, what about free will? If our actions are all shaped by these unmoved movers, our habits, our values, do we really have control over our choices?
The age-old question, isn't it? Free will. Aristotle really wrestled with this one, didn't see it as a simple yes or no. He believed we have the capacity for choice, for thinking things through. We can weigh our options.
That sounds like free will.
But, and here's where it gets tricky, he also knew that our choices are affected by things we can't control. Our past, our experiences, even our genes play a role.
Nature and nurture, both shaping who we are and the choices we make.
You got it. And that's where virtue becomes even more important, because even though we're influenced by things we can't control, Aristotle believed we can shape our character through what we do.
Hold on, are you saying we can change our programming, so to speak?
In a way, yes. By developing virtuous habits, practicing those golden means, we can rewire our inclinations, make ourselves more likely to make choices that match our values and get us where we want to be.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff. So it's not about being perfect. It's about recognizing the things that influence us and working to be our best selves within those limits.
That's it. That's one of the most powerful things about Aristotle's ideas. He gives us agency, even within the boundaries of our circumstances.
This has been a wild ride, from the cosmos to our own personal choices.
It's been a pleasure exploring all this with you.
But before we wrap up, one last question. We've talked about purpose, but what if our purpose isn't set in stone? What if it's something we help create? What if we have the power to become the authors of our own meaningful lives?
Now, that is a thought-provoking question. I think it captures the essence of what Aristotle was getting at. We're not just watching the universe unfold, we're active participants in our own lives.
That was quite the cliffhanger we left off on. Shaping our own purpose, wow.
It is a powerful idea, isn't it? It really puts us in the driver's seat. But of course, there's a balance, like we've been talking about. Aristotle recognized that, yeah, we have this potential, but we're also shaped by lots of things outside our control.
So how do we reconcile those two things? The things we can control and the things we can't?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were discussing about virtue and habits. Even if our starting point is influenced by things outside of us, we can still choose to grow, to work towards becoming better versions of ourselves.
Okay, so it's about focusing on what we can change, even if we can't control every single factor. Makes sense. But let's be real. Building new habits, breaking old ones, that's not easy.
Definitely not. Takes effort and consistency. But remember that whole golden mean concept? Finding the balance point? That applies here too.
Oh, right. How so?
Well, think about it like this. If you're trying to build a new habit, going from 0 to 100 right away, it's probably not going to stick. It's too drastic a change.
Right, got to ease into it.
Exactly. Start small, be consistent, and gradually increase the intensity or the time you spend on it. That way, it's less overwhelming, more sustainable in the long run.
So it's not about forcing massive change overnight. It's about those small, steady steps towards improvement.
You got it. And this goes for any kind of habit, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. Patience is key.
And probably a good dose of self-compassion too, right?
Absolutely. We're not going to be perfect at this. There will be times we slip up, make mistakes, fall back into old patterns. The important thing is to not beat ourselves up about it. Learn from those stumbles and keep moving forward.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. It's like Aristotle is giving us a framework for how to approach life in a more mindful, intentional way.
That's what's so amazing about his work. It's thousands of years old, but it still speaks to something fundamental about the human experience, this desire to understand ourselves and live a good life.
And it's not just about individual happiness either. Earlier, you mentioned community. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, Aristotle believed that we're not meant to exist in isolation. We thrive when we're part of a community that supports us, challenges us, helps us become better versions of ourselves.
So it's not just about me and my own personal growth. It's about how my actions impact others and contribute to the well-being of the community as a whole.
That's a big part of it. It's recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our choices have ripple effects.
That adds another layer of depth to this whole idea of the unmoved mover, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's not just about setting our own lives in motion. It's about the impact we have on the world around us.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so relevant even today. It's a reminder that we have a role to play, that we can contribute to something larger than ourselves.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the cosmic origins of the unmoved mover to its practical applications for our everyday lives.
It's been a joy exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it sparked some new insights and giving you some food for thought. Remember, the power to live a purposeful and fulfilling life is within each of us.
Well said. Go forth and be the unmoved movers of your own lives.